Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Cosmos, where science becomes a lullaby and the unknown turns into a gentle dream. Tonight, let us drift slowly together into the journey of 100 Things Science Still Can't Explain, a collection of questions that have long puzzled humankind, yet also move the heart in quiet wonder. Why does the universe exist? What began the flow of time? Why do we dream, love, and cry? And what is it that makes us truly alive? These mysteries are not only written among the stars, but hidden softly within every breath, every flicker of consciousness. If you love slow journeys through the unanswered, feel free to like and subscribe, and join us as we wander deeper into the cosmos of not knowing, a place where even silence has its own voice. Now, take a deep breath, release your shoulders, and let your mind drift among the endless questions. Because sometimes the most beautiful thing is not the answer, but the search itself. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with wonder. Take a deep breath and let your mind grow quiet like a lake just after the wind has stilled. In that moment of stillness, let us ask the simplest yet boldest question of all. Why does this universe exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? At first glance, it seems like a child's question, yet it is the deepest fissure in the bedrock of awareness. For if nothing truly could exist, then why does nothing not hold the governing role? Why is being, what is, self-evident everywhere, from starlight and interstellar dust to you, the one listening to this gentle narration? Philosophy has its own branching paths. Religion has the language of faith. And science, honest and patient, speaks only of what can be verified. Modern physics offers us a picture of the quantum vacuum, where nothing is not empty at all. Quantum fields still quiver. Particles and antiparticles flicker in and out like foam on the surface of a dark sea. Some suggest that what we call absolute nothingness perhaps does not exist. And yet, even if the vacuum is always busy with fluctuations, we have only shifted the question, why do there exist the laws that allow those fluctuations? Who or what set the rules of the game? The question steps back a pace, but it does not disappear. Albert Einstein once whispered a gentle paradox. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. The universe allows us to understand it, not perfectly, but systematically. Mathematics, whether invention or discovery of the human mind, turns out to be unreasonably, even chillingly effective. Eugene Wigner called it the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural sciences. Behind each equation lies something very much like trust. The universe operates with enough consistency that abstract symbols become keys that unlock reality. But why does mathematics fit nature so tightly? We do not yet know. J.B.S. Haldane observed with graceful wit, "The universe is not only queerer than we suppose, but queerer than we can suppose. Perhaps our frame of thought merely brushes the edge of something stranger than even our best conjectures." From the question, why is there existence, we step lightly toward origins. What struck the first spark? The standard picture today tells that about 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was in a hot, dense state and then expanded. Very soon afterward, there may have been a period of inflation, a hyper-rapid expansion that blew up tiny quantum ripples into the seeds of today's galaxies. But if the Big Bang was the beginning of space-time, then what does before the Big Bang even mean? The word before implies a time axis already in place, while time itself, as relativity describes, was a part of the stage that had only just been lit. Here, a second mystery arrives, quiet yet profound, the arrow of time. In our everyday experience, time flows one way. A glass shattered does not become whole. Hot coffee grows cool. Memory faces yesterday, not tomorrow. And yet, at a fundamental level, many equations of physics are time-symmetric. Reverse the arrow and they still hold. Why, amid this symmetric mathematics, does life know only one direction? Theory often brings us to entropy, a measure of disorder, and suggests that the universe began in an unusually low entropy condition, from which it naturally slides toward higher disorder. But why was the starting point so orderly? The answer is silent. Each time we press deeper into the data, the ultimate cause recedes a step. You might imagine time as a river. The equations say the water could flow both directions. But in reality, the entire terrain, the riverbed's slope, the heights of its banks, makes the water run downstream. That cosmic terrain is the initial condition. Yet who, or what mechanism, shaped that original terrain, setting a universe of extraordinary order so that the arrow of time could arise? That remains a fog that will not lift.
Let us return to that feeling of being sleepless because of mystery. At Sleepy Cosmos, the aim is not to nail down answers. The aim is to rest with the questions. Unknowing is not failure. It is the open space where wonder breathes. When we look toward the universe's dawn, we see milestones science has placed with care. From the acoustic peaks in the cosmic microwave background to the galaxy spectra and the clustering of matter, all like steady footprints across a long beach. Yet between those footprints are gaps, spaces where our gentle imagination can breathe. Another current of thought branches toward the question, what is the stage made of? Is space-time truly fundamental, or only an emergent surface, a tapestry woven from deeper quantum threads? On large scales, general relativity paints a gorgeous scene. Space-time tells matter how to move. Matter tells space-time how to curve. John Archibald Wheeler summed up Einstein so. But when we shrink down to the Planck scale, where classical rulers melt, quantum principles speak up, sometimes incompatible with relativity's smooth geometry. Each tone is correct in its own range, but when mixed, the palette murks. The effort to reconcile, to absorb gravity into quantum mechanics, is the long yearning of quantum gravity, from strings to loops to ideas where space-time emerges from quantum entanglement. If space-time is a descendant of quantum information, then time, what we feel, may be only the amplitude of a deeper song. Upon that stage, black holes are fierce but also poetic. Mathematically, Einstein's solutions say that at a black hole's heart lies a singularity, where curvature blows up to infinity and the old laws surrender. Quantum mechanically, Hawking radiation is hazy as a rumor along the event horizon's edge. Between the two stands the information paradox. Whether information thrown into a black hole vanishes forever or is transformed into wrinkles on the horizon like unreadable ciphers. Each hypothesis leads into a different forest. Firewalls, soft hair, ADS/CFT correspondence. The universe can be highly technical, and paradoxically, the more technical it becomes, the more it resembles poetry. Geometric metaphors for information, quantum threads weaving spacetime's robe. We do not understand all of it, but we can feel the beauty of the attempt, like listening to classical music without being able to read the score. If the question, why is there being at all, is the outer gate, then the Big Bang and the arrow of time are the first courtyards within. Another gate awaits us ahead, dark matter and dark energy, two invisible silhouettes that account for most of the universe's budget. We know they must be there from how galaxies spin, from how light is bent, from how expansion is accelerating. But what they are remains an unfinished poem. In the next part, we will step slowly into that darkness, touch the edge of the unseen, and ask why the constants, the knobs of reality, seem so finely tuned that with the slightest shift, the universe would never have had a chance to blossom into life. Before we pause, let us borrow Wigner's words once more, as a lullaby for those dozing amid questions. The miracle of the appropriateness of the language of mathematics for the formulation of the laws of physics is a wonderful gift which we neither understand nor deserve. Perhaps that very gift, the miraculous fit between thought and world, is the key that lets us go on. And if tonight you open no door, that is all right. Sometimes standing still before a beautiful door is enough for the heart to grow calm. Let your shoulders loosen, breathe in, breathe out. The questions will still be there at dawn. For now, we can simply be here, beneath a gentle night dome, where each cosmic mystery becomes a tender star, sparkling without asking us to answer at once. Close your eyes and imagine. You are looking up at the night sky. Distant galaxies curl softly like silver mist. Each star you see, each glimmer, is only the tip of a vast iceberg in the dark. Physicists call the rest dark matter, that which makes up about 85% of the matter in the universe, yet does not shine, reflect, or absorb light, completely invisible. We know of its existence the way we know the wind exists, by the things it moves. When galaxies rotate, the speed of stars at their outer rims does not drop as classical physics predicts. There seems to be an invisible force holding them from flying apart. When light passes through immense clusters of galaxies, it is bent more strongly than visible mass can explain. From this evidence, we are forced to admit something heavy and unseen is embracing the universe, a kind of backbone whose body we only glimpse by shadow. Many experiments have tried to find it, from the underground halls of Gran Sasso to ultra-cold chambers in Canada to the particle accelerators in Geneva. All remain silent. Not a single dark matter particle has been caught. Not a single signal has been confirmed. Like an invisible guest, walking through a room, leaving footprints no one can match to a form. Some physicists call them WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. Others trust in axions, ultralight particles like a quantum mist pervading space. Some say perhaps dark matter does not exist at all. Maybe gravity's law itself needs revision. Yet, regardless of our lens, the truth remains. A huge portion of reality is concealed behind the night. And, as if that darkness were not deep enough, the universe holds a second mystery, dark energy. If dark matter binds the universe, dark energy drives it apart. In the late 20th century, when astronomers measured distances to faraway supernovae, they discovered something no one expected. The universe is expanding faster, not slowing as predicted. Some force, unseen, untouchable, is urging every galaxy away from the others, like islands drifting across an infinite ocean. Einstein once added a constant to his equations, the cosmological constant, to keep the universe stable. He later regretted it, calling it my greatest blunder. And yet, decades later, that mistake became a clue to the dark energy that permeates space. Perhaps Einstein was more right than he knew. Imagine that in every cubic meter of empty space around you, there is an invisible background energy gently oscillating. It emits no radiation, reacts with nothing, yet inflates space-time itself. If the density of dark energy were even slightly higher, galaxies would separate too quickly for stars to form. If slightly lower, gravity would pull everything back, turning the universe into a big crunch. And yet, wondrously, the value sits just so, allowing trillions upon trillions of stars to shine and life to appear. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Perhaps it is this very just rightness that birthed eyes for the universe to look back upon itself. And perhaps such fine-tuning is not coincidence at all, but a condition required for awareness, as the anthropic principle suggests. We exist in a universe that can generate life, for if not, there would be no one here to ask this question. But that fine-tuning is astonishing. If gravity were stronger by only 1 part in 10 to the 60th, stars would collapse right after forming. If weaker by that much, matter would never clump to ignite. If the electron's charge shifted even slightly, molecules would not be stable. If the neutron were a bit lighter, atomic nuclei could not exist. The universe we inhabit is like a symphony with hundreds of strings, tuned to an absurd perfection. Change a single note and the harmony of life falls apart. Physicist Freeman Dyson once said, "It seems as though the universe knew we were coming." The line is not an act of faith, but the deep astonishment of a scientist before nature's delicacy. We do not know who tuned those pegs, or why, only that they are tuned just enough for a small planet to dream, to love, and to ask questions about itself. Some will say, that is merely coincidence. If life did not exist, who would be here to notice the fine-tuning? And even so, the fact remains wondrous. That we are lucky enough to live in a universe whose physical constants allow dreams to become real. If the universe were a book, then each constant is a punctuation mark set with such precision that if even one were misplaced, the story could not be told. Some theories propose there may be countless other books, a multiverse, in which each child universe carries a different configuration of constants. Somewhere, gravity is stronger, light moves slower, time curls back upon itself. We may simply inhabit the fortunate version where the parameters align so life can kindle, the way a small flower grows exactly where there is sunlight in an infinite garden. Stephen Hawking wrote in A Brief History of Time, "If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it reached its present size. 1/10 millionth, a deviation so tiny as to be absurd, yet precisely the border between nothingness and existence." To reflect on this is to feel something peculiar, overwhelmed, yet soothed. Like watching snow fall in golden lamplight, each flake unique, all together weaving a shared silence. So with the universe, each constant, each particle, each force, all blending into the song of being. Perhaps we will never know why the cosmos is balanced so exquisitely. Perhaps that fine-tuning is simply the consequence of deeper laws we have not yet reached. Or perhaps it is the nature of the infinite, that every possibility exists somewhere. Whatever the answer, it is enough to know that the mere existence of the question makes us humanly special, as though the universe required a pair of eyes to behold itself, and those are ours. Tonight, when you look up at the sky, remember that the light from those stars is crossing a dark sea of invisible matter and mysterious energy, traveling through a space-time tuned with perfect subtlety to arrive at you, a soul that knows how to wonder. Each beam whispers, "You are part of this mystery." And within your slow breath, within the gentle rhythm of your heart, marvelous constants are being kept exactly as they must be. You do not need to understand it all. Simply feeling it is already a way of understanding. Imagine you are drifting in space. No up or down, no direction, only the light of countless stars. You lift your eyes to the sky, though truly you are looking outward and also back in time. The light from the most distant galaxies recorded by the James Webb Telescope has taken tens of billions of years to arrive. The universe we see is only an ancient portrait of itself, a mirror reflecting what has been since the dawn of time. Yet a quiet question rises. How large is the universe really? Cosmologists call the portion we can see the observable universe, a sphere with a radius of about 46 billion light-years. But that is only a temporary limit, a horizon set by the speed of light and the universe's age. Beyond that boundary, no one knows what lies. Perhaps endless expanses of space, or even child universes with entirely different rules. Physicist André Linde once compared,
The universe is not a single entity. It may be an ever-growing fractal of infinite universes. In the model of eternal inflation, bubbles of space swell within an infinite quantum sea, each bubble possibly carrying its own physical constants, even a different number of dimensions. Some bubbles, like ours, may host stars, planets, life. Others never know light at all, only dead-still energy. If true, our universe would be merely a ripple on the ocean of reality, and every possibility would be realized somewhere. The idea of the multiverse arises not only in cosmology, but also in quantum mechanics. In Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation, each quantum event carries several possible outcomes, and each outcome really occurs, but in its own branch of the universe. That means somewhere in the multiverse, a version of you is reading these lines in another language, or never existed. The thought can make us real, but it can also steady us. For if all possibilities are realized, then our being here, now, is the most intimate miracle. And then, when we return to the deepest nature of reality, we reach the boundary where the two pillars of modern physics, general relativity and quantum mechanics, no longer harmonize. General relativity describes the vast, planets, stars, galaxies, and the curvature of space-time. Quantum mechanics describes the tiny, particles, waves, probabilities. Both are right, brilliant in their domains, but when we try to use them together, say at a black hole's core or at the instant of the Big Bang, the mathematics breaks. John Wheeler once said, "Black holes are where God divided by zero." A light joke, yet a profound one. For inside a black hole, where space-time's curvature surges toward infinity, Einstein's equations lose their meaning, while quantum mechanics struggles. Imagine a giant star collapsing, so heavy that not even light escapes. We call its boundary the event horizon. Inside, matter contracts into a singularity, where the physical laws we know cease. But the more unsettling question is, what happens to the information carried by matter that falls in? If it disappears forever, then a bedrock rule of quantum theory, that information is never destroyed, would be violated.
Stephen Hawking wrestled with this paradox all his life, and he himself wrote, "Information cannot be lost in black holes." In the end, he acknowledged a measure of uncertainty, that perhaps information is encoded in the radiation emitted as a black hole slowly evaporates. And so we again stand between two shores. On one side, Einstein's smooth, curved time. On the other, the quantum's leaping wave-particle dance. If there is a theory of everything, it must reconcile both, a chorale between order and turbulence. Physicists call this quest quantum gravity. Among its leading candidates are string theory, loop quantum gravity, and even bolder proposals such as the holographic principle, the idea that the three-dimensional universe we inhabit might be a projection of information living on a two-dimensional surface at the edge of space-time. Imagine everything we see, planets, people, stars that are dying, might be only a refined projection of cosmic data, like a three-dimensional image cast from a distant screen. If so, reality itself would be not unlike a cosmic dream, beautiful, logical, and yet only the reflection of a deeper layer. Einstein once wrote, "Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one." And perhaps he was right, in both literal and figurative ways. Black holes, string theories, multiverses, these sound like mythology, and yet they are precisely where modern science brushes the edge of philosophy. They remind us that the farther we advance in decoding the universe, the less the mystery diminishes. It only grows deeper, lovelier, and gentler. Perhaps the universe needs no solution, it only needs to be felt. For in lifting our eyes and asking why, we already become a part of it. As Carl Sagan said in Cosmos, we are made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Everything, from the dust beneath our feet to the star at a galaxy's rim, shares one nature, one origin. The universe is learning to look at itself through your eyes. Notice your breath right now. Inhale, exhale slowly. That is also the rhythm of the universe. Expansion, contraction, a 14 billion year breath. You are not outside it. You are part of that breath. When you look at the stars, remember that their light travels not only through space, but through time, carrying stories from when the universe was young. Each beam is a memory, and when it touches your eyes, that memory completes a journey of billions of years to be finally seen. That is the greatest wonder. You are the endpoint of an ancient ray of light, the place where the universe completes a thought. And perhaps, simply by understanding this, you already hold a part of reality's secret, that we do not merely live in the universe lives in us. Let that awareness spread through your heart like moonlight spilling across the ocean. Breathe in, breathe out. Let awe become a lullaby. And if your eyelids are closing, let them close gently like the doors of an observatory that has just finished its night's watch. The universe is still there, turning in silence. No need to hurry, for as the poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves." Tonight, love the questions that have no answers. Let them lead you into sleep like stars guiding your way across a distant sky. The universe will go on singing, and you, a small note within that symphony, will go on dreaming. The universe is vast, mysterious, and tender. Sleep well beneath its endless sky. Take a deep breath and imagine you are standing on an ancient shore. There are no humans, no trees, only water, rock, and a sky stained by volcanic smoke. Gentle waves touch the coast, and in that water, tiny molecules are spinning, colliding, binding. They know nothing of life. Yet from those collisions, life arose. It is a story no one ever witnessed, and yet all of us live to tell it. Science calls it abiogenesis, the process by which, from inorganic matter, the first life was formed. But how? Why did molecules of carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen choose to organize themselves into what we call organisms? Harold Urey and Stanley Miller once tried to recreate that moment in 1953. In a famous experiment, they ran electrical sparks through a mix of gases simulating the primitive atmosphere, and a few days later, amino acids appeared in that solution, the first bricks of life. That experiment was like a flash of lightning in the dark. Chemistry can indeed germinate into biology. But what made those molecules reorganize, self-replicate, and self-maintain? We know that DNA, RNA, and proteins are the leading actors of life today, but which came first? The RNA world hypothesis suggests that RNA once served both as an information carrier and as a self-catalyzing enzyme, a first self-starting machine. Yet RNA is too complex to arise purely by chance. So perhaps there was something before RNA, simpler yet capable of evolving. Some scientists look down to the deep ocean floor, where hydrothermal vents release superheated water rich in iron and sulfur. There, organic molecules might self-assemble around mineral structures, fueled by thermal and chemical gradients. Life may have begun in darkness, not under the sun's light, but from the Earth's warmth, like an ember quietly burning for billions of years. From that moment, the first cells formed, divided, cooperated, evolved, and after 4 billion years, here we sit, wondering, what made inanimate reactions come to care about their own existence? Carl Zimmer once wrote, "Life is chemistry, but with a twist. Chemistry that cares." And so, it is somewhere between chance and law lies a threshold where matter crosses over into life, as if the universe suddenly recognized itself in a droplet that can move. From primordial life, we arrive at the beings that can record DNA, a perfect double helix, billions of characters long, encoding our entire bodies, our emotions, and our latent memories. Every cell in you carries the complete blueprint of yourself, and they know when to read which passage, where to pause, like a score conducted by an invisible maestro. James Watson and Francis Crick wrote in Nature in 1953, "It has not escaped our notice that the specific pairing we have postulated immediately suggests a possible copying mechanism for the genetic material. They did more than discover the double helix, they opened a door to understanding life's memory. And yet, DNA poses another question. Why did life choose this form? Why the four-letter chain, ATGC, and not some other structure? Is this the only way to store living information, or merely one language among countless languages that could exist in the universe? Between DNA and life lie ambiguous entities like viruses, not entirely alive, yet not entirely dead. Viruses have no cells and cannot reproduce on their own, but when they touch a host, they awaken like sleepers, commandeering a living creature's machinery to copy themselves. They are like life's stray memories, fragments abandoned at the border between chemistry and biology. A biologist once said, "Viruses are not just agents of disease, they are agents of evolution." Indeed, without viruses, we might never have evolved to reproduce as we do now. A portion of human DNA, nearly 8%, is of viral origin, which means each of us carries the traces of genetic memories once exchanged between life and almost life. Now the question grows larger. Is life unique to Earth? Or is it a natural tendency of the cosmos, like life or gravity? Wherever conditions are right, life emerges. Microbes hidden in Martian ice, subsurface oceans beneath the ice of Europa and Enceladus, or fluctuating methane in Titan's atmosphere, all hint that we may not be alone. But if life is out there, why have we not heard from them? That is the Fermi paradox. Where is everybody? Perhaps they are too far, or too different, or simply have no need to communicate in ways we recognize. Or perhaps the silence itself is the answer, that life is so rare, each civilization flares alone, then goes dark before they can find one another. Yet whatever the answer, the very act of asking reveals a wonder. Life is not only a biological phenomenon, it is consciousness asking about itself. We not only want to exist, we want to understand why we exist. And perhaps that longing, not intelligence or technology, is what truly makes humans alive. If you are hearing these words in the dark, let your mind drift with the current of thought. From the primal seed to DNA, from viruses to consciousness, each step of evolution is not only a biological process, but a journey of awareness. From the instant a first cell trembled to the moment a mind asks, "Why does firing neurons create the feeling of being alive?" we have traveled billions of years just to pose a question so beautiful. And who knows, perhaps that question is life's true purpose, to wonder about itself. Imagine you are sitting in a quiet room. Outside lies deep night, and only the soft beat of your own heart remains. Thoughts slow, and you ask, "Who am I?" That simple question is among the deepest science has ever faced. Consciousness, the subjective feeling of being alive, of sensing, of knowing, remains the greatest mystery in modern science. We understand fairly well how the brain operates. Billions of neurons carry electrical signals, forming complex networks. We know the hippocampus helps store memory, the amygdala processes emotion, and the prefrontal cortex governs thought. And yet, how do those cold electrical impulses give rise to the warm feeling of me? Philosopher David Chalmers calls this the hard problem of consciousness. Why does physical processing give rise to a rich inner life at all?
And he admits that after hundreds of years of philosophy and science, we still have no fully satisfying answer. William James, in The Principles of Psychology, 1890, wrote, "Consciousness, then, does not appear to itself chopped up in bits. It is nothing jointed. It flows. Consciousness is not a pile of fragments, but a continuous stream, like water running over stones. Science can analyze each droplet, but the stream, the vivid feel of the present, slips past every formula. When we sleep, that stream detaches from waking reality and drifts into the twilight of dreams. In dreams, we can fly, meet the departed, or speak with another version of ourselves. Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Today, neuroscience affirms that dreams help process emotions, consolidate memory, and regulate the psyche. But why should the brain invent a simulated world every night instead of simply resting? That question remains open. Perhaps in dreams, the brain rehearses abilities we never try in life, a laboratory of the mind where the rules are set aside. Images, sounds, and feelings in dreams blend memory and imagination. When we wake, we remember some and forget some, yet the feeling, both real and unreal, lingers like a thin haze after rain. Perhaps that is how the universe reminds us that the boundary between real and illusory is never truly clear. From dreams, we step into memory, where time resides. Memory is not a static warehouse, but a living score, edited each time we recall it. Every time you remember, the brain does more than open a file. It rewrites it. Details fade, emotions shift, and gradually we recall not the event itself, but the memory of having remembered it. Neurologist Oliver Sacks once wrote in The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, "We only see what we expect to see. We only remember what our imagination allows us to remember." Memory is not a photograph, it is a painting done with emotion. Perhaps that is why each person lives in a private universe spun by their own mind. But perhaps the greatest mystery is not what we remember, but what we feel. Why can we love, fear, weep, hope? Neuroscientists can point to the amygdala in fear, the insula in disgust, the prefrontal cortex in emotion regulation, but they cannot answer the simple question, why can those electrical signals hurt, sadden, or bring joy? Antonio Damasio in The Feeling of What Happens wrote, "Feelings are mental experiences of body states which arise as the brain interprets emotions. Feelings are the body's reflection in the mind. When the heart races, the brain reads fear. When breathing slows, it names peace. Strangely, feelings can also change the body. When we imagine something joyful, our heart truly slows, cortisol falls, muscles soften. Imagination is strong enough to rewrite our own biology. That is why the placebo effect still unsettles medicine. When patients believe they are being treated, that belief alone can trigger genuine physiological recovery, as if the mind could fool the body to rescue itself. A study from Harvard Medical School once stated, "Placebos are not about deception, they are about the power of the brain to heal the body." Perhaps belief is the subtlest form of bioenergy we possess. And sometimes the mind plays stranger games, déjà vu, the sense of having already lived a present moment. It lasts only seconds, yet it chills us. Why is this so familiar? Neuroscientists suggest déjà vu happens when the hippocampus confuses true memory with newly formed memory, creating an illusion of familiarity. But whatever the scientific account, the feeling retains a mystic depth, as if we brushed the thin boundary between reality and parallel recollection. Perhaps for a heartbeat, the brain slips phase between branches of time, or it is simply a reminder that consciousness is not as linear as we think. Then there is creativity, the wondrous flame flaring between reason and feeling. Ideas, melodies, inventions seem to appear from nothing. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world."
Imagination is the bridge between what we know and what we cannot yet understand. Perhaps in moments of creation, the brain falls into a waking dream state, a kind of deliberate dream where both hemispheres synchronize and logic and emotion dance together. And finally, sleep, the simple thing we do every night, yet still not fully explained. We know sleep restores energy, consolidates memory, and regulates emotion. But why consciousness must be switched off to do this remains unknown. Matthew Walker, in Why We Sleep, wrote, "Sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day, yet science still cannot fully explain why. Perhaps sleep is nature's way for the universe to refresh the little part of itself within us, just as night is needed for dawn. And so consciousness, emotion, memory, dreams, belief, all are small doors opening onto a greater mystery. What makes a lump of matter able to love, to hurt, to dream, to recognize itself? Perhaps no answer is needed. Perhaps simply knowing that we are sensing, wondering, living is already the greatest miracle. Let your breathing slow. For having passed through the origin of life, DNA, viruses, feelings, dreams, and consciousness, what remains to ask is only this: why do all these things know how to love, to grieve, and to move toward one another? The rise of intelligence and compassion. If life is the union of chemistry and time, then intelligence is the result of billions of years of curiosity. From simple creatures reacting to light to humans, the only beings who ask, "Who am I?" The journey is long and beautiful. But intelligence is not merely calculation, reasoning, or creativity. It is also the capacity to feel another's pain as one's own. Charles Darwin, often called the father of evolution, once wrote, "The greatest moral achievement of humanity is the extension of sympathy. The ability to extend empathy beyond the self marks the highest stage of evolution. For when a being loves and shares, it does not merely exist, it understands it is not alone in this universe." Neuroscientists today have found mirror neurons in the human brain that activate when we observe others' emotions. When we see someone smile, a part of our brain smiles too. When we see someone in pain, a part of our brain reacts as if we ourselves were suffering. Compassion is pre-installed in our biology. Perhaps this is how the universe ensures that living things not only survive, but connect. We are not isolated entities. We are an interwoven network of feeling, a web of being, as biologist Lynn Margulis once called it. Cosmic consciousness and reflection. The deeper we peer into the human brain, the more we see the universe reflecting itself. Neuronal branches form a bioelectric network so intricate it resembles the large-scale structure of galaxies. Under the microscope, neurons branch like roots. Through the telescope, galaxy clusters spread the same way. The two poles of reality, the small and the vast, speak one language of connection. Carl Sagan once said in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." That is not only poetry, but truth. Human consciousness is the mirror the universe uses to see itself. When we think, dream, and love, the cosmos, mindless for billions of years, suddenly has eyes to look, a mind to contemplate, and a heart to tremble. Perhaps life is simply the way the universe temporarily feels itself before dissolving again into timeless quiet. The limits of knowledge. Yet even as human intellect has ventured far, touching the Higgs boson, decoding the genome, creating artificial intelligence, there remain limits that cannot be crossed. We can simulate the activity of billions of neurons, but we cannot create a true feeling of I. Perhaps consciousness is not a product of the brain, but a deeper field, with the brain as an antenna that receives it. Physicist Max Planck once said,
I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. He, the founder of quantum mechanics, believed that consciousness does not arise from matter. Rather, matter is an expression of consciousness. If that is true, then we do not merely live in the universe lives through us. Even so, perhaps what matters is not being right or wrong. For as neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran says, the fact that you can be aware that you exist at all is the most astonishing thing in the universe. The mere fact that we can know we are alive is a miracle beyond all laws. Harmony between mind and world. When the human mind is quiet, it moves in rhythm with the natural world. Emotion is no longer chaos, but becomes the soundtrack of life. Hearing rainfall, seeing pale light through leaves, we realize something simple. Life needs no reason to exist. It only needs to be felt. Strangely, the higher many scientists climb in reason, the more they return to humility and stillness. Einstein once wrote, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science." The sense of mystery, not the answer, is the energy from which science and art both arise. Perhaps mystery is the universe's language, and life, in all its forms, is the interpreter. Now gently close your eyes. Feel your heartbeat, a symphony conducted by millions of cells singing together. Feel your breath, air moving in and out, tidal as an ancient sea. In that moment, you are not merely you. You are the prolongation of the universe, the way billions of years of evolution converge into a single blink of awareness. Let the remaining questions trail off like shooting stars. Why do we exist? Why do we dream? Why is there love, longing, and compassion? Perhaps no answer is needed. For as Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves." Love the questions. Let unknowing become a refuge. Science can measure, analyze, and simulate, but there is one thing it has yet to do: touch the soul of emotion. Maybe that is why we still dream, still write music, still tell stories, still shed tears at beauty. Because deep down, humans do not only want to understand, we want to feel. The universe does not need us to exist, but perhaps it needs us to be felt. And life, from the smallest cell to the dreaming mind, is the way the universe whispers, "I am here. I am alive. I am looking at myself through your eyes." Let that thought become the final lullaby of tonight, that consciousness, intelligence, and life are not three separate things. They are three movements in the same symphony called being. Breathe in, breathe out. All questions can wait until dawn. For now, let your mind float lightly among the stars. For sometimes, it is unknowing that makes us feel truly alive. The questions themselves are soothing. Sleep well and dream gently. Take a slow, gentle breath and imagine you are drifting along a river of light. That river is time, unseen, soundless, and always flowing. And upon its surface, all of us are carried. Every cell, every breath, every flicker of awareness. We call it age. But age is not merely a number. It is the story time writes upon the body. From the moment we are born, every cell in the body begins to count down. Each cycle of DNA replication, every heartbeat, every molecule of oxygen that passes through, each leaves a small trace of wear. The simplest question that science still cannot fully answer is, why do we age? At the biological level, we know aging is the accumulation of damage. DNA trimmed short, proteins misfolded, cells losing their ability to repair themselves. The tiny biological clocks within us, telomeres at the ends of chromosomes, shorten with each division, until the cell can no longer duplicate. Biologist Leonard Hayflick discovered that human cells can divide only about 50 times, the Hayflick limit. From that, he wrote, "Aging is not programmed. It is the result of entropy, the biological expression of time's arrow." In other words, aging is how time engraves itself upon life, like wind carving into stone. And no matter what we attempt, the arrow of time travels only one way. Yet, if aging is the result of disorder, can it be reversed? Modern science is trying to answer. Researchers at Harvard, led by David Sinclair, have attempted to reset the cellular clock. By activating a group of genes called sirtuins, they caused frail, aged cells in mice to grow younger again, almost rolling back time at the molecular level. Sinclair wrote in Lifespan, "Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to." Aging is a disease, and that means it's treatable. That statement shook traditional views. If aging is a disease, then it can be treated. If it is a biological mechanism, then perhaps we can learn to slow it or even pause it for a time. Studies in stem cells, CRISPR gene editing, and interventions in epigenetic expression have opened hope that humans may live not only longer, but healthier in old age. Laboratory mice have had their lifespans extended by 30 to 40%. Tiny worms in Cynthia Kenyon's experiments lived twice as long when a single gene, DAF2, was switched off. All this makes us wonder, might humans one day live to 150 or 200 years? Or is death itself the necessary element that gives life meaning? Philosopher Bernard Williams wrote in The Macropoulos Case, Reflections on the Tedium of Immortality, "An eternal life would be meaningless because it would lack the urgency that gives life its shape. Immortality, if it exists, might not be a blessing, but an endless loop stripped of time's value. Perhaps precisely because we know we will die, we learn how to live. The immortality of nature, when some creatures defy time. Yet in nature there are beings that seem to defy the rules of aging, creatures that astonish science because they appear not to die in the biological sense. Meet Turritopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish. When threatened or injured, it can reverse its life cycle, from adult back to polyp, then grow again as if reborn. This is no metaphor, it is true biological immortality. Oceanographer Shin Kubota once called it the only animal that has truly found the fountain of youth. And the Greenland shark, dwelling in the cold North Atlantic, may live over 400 years. Radiocarbon analysis of their eyes suggests females reach maturity at around 150 years. Every heartbeat, every exchange of metabolism is so slow that time seems nearly to halt. Why can some creatures live so long while humans with intellect, technology, and consciousness are limited to less than a century? Perhaps because time is measured not only by years, but by the intensity of existence. The beauty of finitude. In Eastern culture, especially in Japan, there is mono no aware, the gentle sorrow at the beauty of things that fade. A cherry blossom is most beautiful the moment it falls. A sunset is most beautiful just before it disappears. Perhaps humans are the same. The finitude of our lifespan is not a flaw of creation, but nature's way of making each moment precious. Writer Kazuo Ishiguro said in Never Let Me Go, "You have to accept that sometimes that's how life is, fragile, fleeting, and yet immeasurably precious. We cherish one another precisely because we know no one is here forever. If a being could live endlessly, would it still grasp the meaning of a day? Death, then, is not life's adversary. It is the teacher that shows life how to value itself. Yet perhaps the most wondrous thing is that while bodies age, human consciousness can slip beyond time's confines. When we remember childhood, when we hear an old song, when we dream, we briefly slip free of the present, traveling between past and future. The brain is not only a biological organ, it is a time machine.
Physicist Carlo Rovelli wrote in The Order of Time, "Time is not something that flows uniformly. It is something we create in the way we experience the world." Time may not be an objective current at all, but a subjective experience born of the mind. Perhaps this is why we fear death, not only the loss of the body, but the moment our inner time stops. But if time exists only in perception, then when consciousness dissolves into the cosmos, might we return to the timeless? Each night, when you close your eyes, the world around you fades into stillness. Light dims, sound recedes, and consciousness, your tireless storyteller, begins to drift away. You do not die, but you are not truly alive in the usual way either. You are sleeping, entering a silent journey science does not yet fully understand. Sleep is something all creatures do, from humans to tiny flies. That makes it a universal ritual of life. And yet, strangely, no one knows why. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, author of Why We Sleep, writes, "Sleep remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of science." Though brief, that sentence holds both science's humility and philosophy's meditative hush. Science has discovered much. During sleep, the brain does not rest. It works differently. In REM, rapid eye movement, the brain processes memories, reorganizes information, and produces dreams, where past, present, and imagination mingle. In NREM phases, the body repairs itself, cells mend damage, the immune system strengthens, growth hormone is released. Sleep is life's maintenance project. But the question remains, why must nature compel us to become fully unconscious to do this? A sleeping creature is easy prey, easy to hunt, and yet birds, fish, mammals, all must sleep. This has led biologists to believe that sleep is not merely useful, it is necessary for intelligence to endure. Perhaps, in the darkness, the brain does not merely rest, it recreates itself. Dreams, the mirror of the unconscious. When you dream, you do not see images alone. You re-feel what has passed, fear, joy, memory, hope, but softened, as if the mind were healing itself through symbols. Sigmund Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Carl Jung saw them as a theater where the dreamer is both the scene, the actor, and the author. In dreams, we are everything. And perhaps that is when we are closest to the universe, when the self melts and only a pure current of feeling remains, where time does not exist. Some modern neuroscientists believe dreaming helps the brain process unresolved emotion, as if each night were a natural restorative meditation. Indeed, many great ideas in history emerged from dreams. Mendeleev glimpsed the periodic table in sleep. Elias Howe invented the sewing machine after dreaming of a needle's eye. Paul McCartney first heard the melody of Yesterday in a dream. Perhaps dreams are the gate where the unconscious meets creativity. As writer Ursula K. Le Guin once wrote, "Dreams are real while they last. Can we say more of life? Perhaps in dreams we merely step into another room of reality, where physics softens and time dissolves. Sleep, the small death of every day. Sleep is not merely rest. It is the nightly rite of rebirth. Each time you sleep, a part of the brain dies temporarily. When you awaken, you are born again into a body newly repaired. It is the small death nature gives us to remind us that nothing remains forever in wakefulness. French philosopher Michel de Montaigne once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which we cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until, in our own despair, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God.
Sleep is not a pause in awareness. It is time for the heart to learn forgiveness, for the mind to practice letting go. Perhaps that is why humans cannot live without sleep. After 48 hours awake, the brain begins to hallucinate. After 72 hours, memory, emotion, and cognition fail. Sleep is not a luxury. It is the condition that allows consciousness to persist. Death, sleep's twin. In Greek myth, Thanatos, death, and Hypnos, sleep, are twin brothers. Born of Nyx, the night, they travel the world together, one lulling people into dreams, the other into eternity. Perhaps this is not mere poetry, but a profound biological metaphor. Sleep and death differ only in degree. In both, consciousness leaves the body. And if sleep is how life leaves a little each day, then death may simply be a longer sleep from which we need not awaken. Physicist Erwin Schrödinger wrote in What is Life? The permanent disappearance of consciousness is a delusion. The field of consciousness is never destroyed, but only changes. If consciousness is a kind of energy, perhaps it does not vanish, it only transforms. Like a wave dissolving into the sea, nothing is lost, it simply ceases to be a wave. When sleep becomes meditation. Amid the modern world's blue glare, human sleep is increasingly stolen away. Yet in those quiet night hours, we find our original self again. No work, no memories, only breath and heartbeat. It is meditation in nature, a practice all beings know without learning. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, rest is not idleness. To rest is to look deeply and to renew our strength. Sleep is not laziness. It is an act of compassion toward oneself. When you sleep, you are not losing time. You are returning time to body and mind. Thus, sleep and dreams are two doors opening onto life's deepest mystery. One leads to the body, where cells are renewed. One leads to the spirit, where consciousness is cleansed. Between them plays the symphony of time, the endless rhythm of death and rebirth, of night and day, of scattering and return. Perhaps when you sleep, the universe slows its breath with you. For within each person, the cosmos is lulling itself. Imagine, beneath the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic, a creature glides quietly, the Greenland shark. Its heart beats only once every 10 seconds. It swims slowly, as if unhurried, for it has centuries to live. It may have been born before Newton wrote Principia and still be alive after ages we have yet to pass. It is a living memory of the planet. Meanwhile, in another corner of the sea, the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, quietly reverses its own time. When injured or starving, it does not die. It returns to youth, then begins its cycle again. As if within its body the arrow of time had snapped. Not to defy nature, but because it never needed to depart. These beings open a door onto what humans have always dreamed of. Not merely to live long, but to escape decay. And so we begin to ask, might there be within us a hidden immortality switch turned off long ago? Regeneration, nature's law. When a tree falls, its seeds sprout. When a star dies, its matter births new planets. In nature, death is not an ending, it is transformation. Biologists have found that regeneration is not a miracle, but life's common language. A salamander can regrow a limb. A starfish can regrow an arm. A worm can regenerate an entire body from a tiny piece. This does not violate physics. They simply remember how to begin. Within each of your cells, DNA holds instructions to rebuild the entire body. And yet, humans have lost that ability. Scientists believe that in evolution, we traded regeneration for cognition. A larger brain, intelligence, consciousness all demand immense energy. Thus, nature chose another path. Instead of living forever, know that you are alive. As philosopher Alan Watts said, The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain, so obvious, and so simple. Life needs no reason to continue. It is sufficient unto itself, like breath, like light. Immortality and its price. Modern science is pursuing every route to extend life, from DNA repair genes to telomere-protecting enzymes, from CRISPR edits to cryonics for a future thaw. But the larger question echoes in the dark. If humans truly could live forever, would we still be human? Philosopher Susan Earth once wrote, "Millions long for immortality who don't know what to do with themselves on a rainy Sunday afternoon. We yearn for eternity, yet sometimes do not know what to do with the present moment." Perhaps immortality is not in the number of years, but in how we live each second. A moment of love, a smile, an idea, each is another form of continuation. When a person dies, their memories dissolve, but their influence lives on in others. That is immortality in its loveliest sense, immortality within the collective mind. Carl Sagan once said, "To live in the hearts of others is to never truly die." And perhaps that is the deepest definition of everlasting life. Death, the teacher of awakening. Death is often seen as an end, but many ancient philosophies look upon it differently. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Tibetans call death bardo, the in-between. Not disappearance, but a transitional phase in which the soul releases its old form to assume a new one. Even in modern science, this is symbolic truth. No atom of you is lost when you die. Each molecule of carbon, oxygen, iron becomes part of soil, air, trees, ocean. You dissolve to return to the whole. Physicist Carl Rovelli writes in The Order of Time, "We are processes, not things. The world is not made of objects, it's made of events. We are not objects, but flow. And death is not the end of the flow, it is a branch of river merging back into the sea. When you sit very still, eyes closed, listening to your heartbeat, you may realize. Time is no longer linear. The present expands without end, the past melts, the future has not yet come. In that stillness, you step out of time and touch eternity within a single moment." Einstein once wrote to a friend's son after his father died, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. The division between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion of perception. The universe does not count time, it knows only motion and change. And when we learn to see life as a process rather than a straight line, death loses its terror. Now, having traveled through aging, sleep, and death, look back. Life is not a race to extend time, but the art of savoring a moment. As the poet Mary Oliver asks in The Summer Day, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" We may never fully understand why we live, why we die, why we dream, or why we fear loss. But these very questions make us more human, deeper, kinder. Time, the thing we always wish to conquer, is in truth the teacher that shows us how to love and let go. So when night falls and you close your eyes, know that every sleep is a small death, and every dawn is rebirth. There is nothing to fear. With every breath, the universe continues its cycle, and you are part of that music. The questions themselves are soothing. Mystery is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Let yourself melt into that rhythm. Do not resist time, float with it. For in the end, we do not vanish. We simply return to where we have always belonged. Sleep well. And if you dream tonight, perhaps the universe is dreaming through you. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel this wonder. Beneath your soles, a planet is beating its own heart. The space around us seems still, But in truth, the Earth is alive. Its core, thousands of kilometers beneath our feet, does not sleep. There, liquid metals swirl at thousands of kilometers per hour, generating the colossal magnetic field that wraps the whole planet. More than an invisible force that keeps a compass pointing north, that field is an armor for life itself, shielding the atmosphere from the sun's tearing radiation. Without it, ultraviolet rays and high-energy particles from space would have scorched the Earth into a barren, Mars-like world. Physicist Richard Feynman once said, "Nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns, so each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry." Earth's magnetic field is one of those long threads, seemingly small, yet tying us to the whole tapestry of the cosmos. Earth, a soul with a heartbeat. When we look at this planet from space, it appears still. Yet the Earth is breathing. Beneath the oceans, magma still pours out along mid-ocean ridges, forging new crust for the planet. At the poles, ice melts and refreezes, following the cycles of light and darkness. Air rises and falls, the seas pulse, and the entire planet behaves like a vast body with its own biorhythm. Science calls this the Milankovitch cycles, small changes in Earth's orbit, tilt, and eccentricity that sway the climate, driving ice ages and warm periods over millions of years. Each breath of the planet lasts tens thousands of years, so slow that we glimpse its traces only in rocks, fossils, and ancient ice. James Lovelock, the British scientist, proposed the Gaia hypothesis. The Earth behaves as a single, self-regulating organism. In his view, Earth is not merely a home for life, it is itself a living being. Trees, the atmosphere, oceans, and mountains are the organs of one body, working to keep balance. And when we shatter that balance, the planet will reset, sometimes by fierce means. Magnetic field, pole reversals, and the molten core. Earth's magnetic field is not fixed. Across geologic history, it has flipped hundreds of times. North becoming south, south becoming north. The most recent reversal happened about 780,000 years ago in the Brunhes-Matuyama event. Scientists find records of these flips in cooled lava flows where iron minerals froze in directions opposite to today. The question is, why does the field reverse? No one knows for sure. It may be due to turbulent flows in the liquid iron-nickel core, the planet's geodynamo. When those flows destabilize, the poles switch. And each time this happens, Earth's shield temporarily weakens. Cosmic radiation can pour in, disturbing biology and even altering climate. Though unproven in detail, geophysicists suspect some reversals may coincide with mass extinctions. As if the planet were molting, each renewal carrying pain. In the deepest core, the inner core, pressure is so immense that iron turns solid, even at 5,000 C, nearly the temperature of the sun's surface. Around it lies the outer core, a moving ocean of liquid iron generating vast electric currents that create the magnetic field. The whole system is like Earth's heart, slow, strong, beating steadily for 4.5 billion years. When we say the Earth is a living, breathing organism, it's not a mere poetic image. It is physical and biological truth. This planet lives, keeping rhythm between stability and chaos, creation and destruction. Fire, ice, and lightning, phenomena still unexplained. If the core is Earth's heart, then fire, ice, and sky are its moods. Fire erupts from volcanoes, ice melts at the poles, lightning rips the air. All are the planet's surges. We think we understand lightning, yet many of its forms remain mysterious. There are glowing spheres drifting after a strike, ball lightning, reported for hundreds of years, still unreproducible in laboratories. Earthquake lights, strange glows that appear before faults rupture, also lack a settled explanation. Some scientists suggest stress in rocks generates electricity that ionizes the air. Others invoke geologic plasma. No one knows for certain. Physicist Nikola Tesla once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Perhaps every earthly phenomenon, from lightning to earthquakes, is the language of energy. We simply haven't learned the whole alphabet. The balance between creation and destruction. Earth is the greatest artist and the most relentless destroyer. Volcanoes give life and take it away. From their ash, soils grow rich, painting green fields. Yet that same heat can erase civilizations, as with the Toba eruption 74,000 years ago, which plunged Earth into a mini ice age. Science calls this a catastrophic equilibrium, balance restored through catastrophe. Like a fever in the body, the planet recalibrates through violent convulsions. Earthquakes, eruptions, storms, floods, these are not only calamities, but natural adjustments. The German naturalist philosopher Alexander von Humboldt wrote, "The most dangerous worldview is the worldview of those who have not viewed the world. Those who have not truly seen Earth, its beauty and its fury, cannot grasp that everything is linked. Now imagine yourself sitting still in the night, feeling the ground beneath you. Under that thin crust, for thousands of kilometers, metals flow, seismic waves surge, heat rises, continents drift. The Earth is never still. Always moving, always changing, always dreaming, like us, born of it. The Earth does not stand still. Since its birth more than 4.5 billion years ago, it has endlessly shed and remade itself. Continents form and shatter, oceans open and close, mountains rise and erode to dust. What we call enduring is only temporary on the universe's timescale. Yet within the chaos lies a marvel. From destruction, life rises again. Each time the planet resets its breath, it opens a path to a new epoch, as though Earth were forever experimenting with itself. Volcanoes, the planet's arteries. Beneath the thin crust we inhabit, magma, molten rock, circulates like blood in veins. When pressure mounts, it pierces the crust and erupts as volcanoes. This is not merely rage, it is the planet's exhalation. When Tambora in Indonesia erupted in 1815, ash veiled the sky for months. Global temperatures plunged, and 1816 became the year without a summer. Crop failures, famine, and long, cold European nights prompted Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein, a tale of life conjured amid death. From ash, culture sprouts. Earth's fire, though it destroys, sows questions about existence, about the line between creation and ruin. Earthquakes, the voice of the deep. Earthquakes are among nature's most terrifying mysteries and proof that our planet is alive. Tectonic plates, vast slabs of crust floating on the mantle, continually collide, slide, and sink. From their slow motion arise the Himalayas, the abyssal Pacific, and disaster. When centuries of pent-up energy release in seconds, the ground convulses, buildings fall, seas rise. Tsunamis reminding us that everything we build is temporary. Seismologist Charles Richter, creator of the quake scale, once said, "Nothing built by man can stand forever against the forces that built the world itself." A chilling line and a lesson in humility. Ice ages and renewal. Earth does not only warm, it cools to heal. Every tens of thousands of years, subtle changes in orbit and tilt usher in an ice age. Ice spreads from the poles, swallowing forests, rivers, mountains. When it melts, waters pour back to the seas, triggering biological renaissances. Life is not erased, it adapts, transforms, and evolves with renewed force. Across 4 billion years, Earth has endured at least 5 mass extinctions, each wiping out 70 to 90% of species, yet life always returns. The fifth, the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction 66 million years ago, when a giant asteroid struck the Yucatan, killed the dinosaurs, but gifted survival to small mammals. Without that impact, perhaps humans would never have existed. Paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould wrote, "We are here because one odd group of fishes had a peculiar fin anatomy that could transform into legs for terrestrial creatures. We exist thanks to tiny contingencies, events that seemed disastrous but opened new ways. This planet seems to know. Destruction is how creation begins again. The origin of water, a quiet miracle. Among Earth's riddles, the origin of water may be the most beautiful. Water, so ordinary, holds the key to all life. Without it, no seas, no clouds, no us. But where did it come from? One hypothesis says water arrived with icy comets and water-bearing asteroids in the early days. When Earth still glowed hot, spaceborne bodies struck, melted, and poured water into the planet's depths. Another suggests water welled up from within, as mantle minerals released vapor through ancient volcanism. Whatever its source, water is the thread that binds all life. Every sip you take today once drifted in clouds millions of years ago, once coursed through a tree, once lived in a dinosaur's blood, and may have been part of the primordial sea where life began. It is wondrous to realize every breath you draw, every drop you touch, is the planet's memory.
Biologist Lauren Isley wrote in The Immense Journey, "If there is magic on this planet, it is contained in water. If there is any magic here, it lives in water. The oceans, where Earth dreams. The sea is not merely storage for water, it is the planet's memory. In its deepest halls, heat, pressure, and time conspire to form strange beings, lanternfish, rock-eating bacteria, and forms unseen. At 11 kilometers down in the Mariana Trench, life persists, proof that Earth need not sunlight to dream. On the seafloor, hydrothermal vents exhale 400 degrees C mineral-rich water. Here, many scientists believe life first emerged, where chemistry turned into biology, where molecules learned to remember how to copy themselves. Carl Sagan said in Cosmos, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars." But he also reminded us, the oceans were the warm cradle where those atoms learned to love, becoming cells, creatures, and, at last, us. When you sit by the sea and hear the surf, it is not only the sound of water. It is the planet's heartbeat retelling old chapters in the language of tides. Each wave is the breath of 4 billion years. The eternal cycle, destruction and rebirth. Earth proves that death is not life's opposite, but part of it. From volcanic ash rise forests. From fish turned fossil comes oil. From melting glaciers flow streams. And from the cold dark of extinction, life finds its way back. This turbulent planet always knows how to begin again from its own ashes. As if it remembers what we often forget. No ending is forever. Imagine floating in space, looking down at the blue world turning slowly in the sun's pale gold. There is no sound but the cosmos breathing. Yet if you listen closely, you will hear Earth singing its own music. The thunder rolling through valleys, the ocean beating time against the shore, the volcano murmuring in the deep, and wind whispering through forests. All of it one vast melody, fierce and tender at once. Physicist-philosopher Fritjof Capra wrote in The Web of Life,
The more we study the major problems of our time, the more we come to realize that they cannot be understood in isolation. They are systemic problems, interconnected and interdependent. Every peal of thunder, every stream, every breath of wind, each is a note in Earth's symphony. And when we listen, we do not just understand the planet, we hear ourselves. The planet's heartbeats. Look to volcanoes, the emblem of power. Beneath their ferocity lies nature's quiet kindness. When they erupt, ash enriches soils into fertile fields. Mineral grains wash by rain to the seas, feeding plankton, the base of the entire marine food web. Fire devastates, and it creates. Destruction is not an ending, but preparation for rebirth. Writer Rachel Carson, spark of the modern ecological movement, wrote in The Sense of Wonder. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. In Earth's beauty, we find strength to go on. Every storm cycle, every eruption carries the same message: no destruction is meaningless. The oceans, the planet's memory and heart. The sea is the Earth's emotional heart. When storms rise, it roars. When calm returns, it lulls the shore with waves steady as breath. But the sea is not just water, it remembers. In every salty drop are traces of ancient volcanoes, falling comets, beings that lived and dissolved. Scientists call this a biochemical memory. The ocean stores not only energy, but story. A 2023 study from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution found that carbon compounds in seafloor sediments can archive climate information across millions of years. The ocean is narrating history in chemical script. If we learn to listen, we can understand what Earth has endured, reading the planet's diary. Ice, time's frozen breath. At the world's two poles, ice is transparent memory. Layers of snow compressed over centuries become climate libraries. Cores drilled in Greenland and Antarctica hold not only CO2 from hundreds of thousands of years past, but volcanic dust, pollen, even ancient DNA. Every tiny bubble in ice is a frozen breath of the Earth. It is strange and lovely to think that a drop you touch today may once have lain in old ice, then melted, evaporated, and fallen again. Nothing truly disappears, it only changes form. That is this planet's most sacred rule, the reincarnation of matter. Albert Einstein once wrote, "Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be changed from one form to another." Earth is the living proof. Every ending is a beginning. Light, fire, and mysteries still unnamed. Though science has traveled far, many earthly phenomena still leave us quiet. Floating spheres of ball lightning, strange glows before quakes, earthquake lights, low-frequency oceanic sounds, the hum, with no known source. They are like off-key notes in the planet's symphony. Some physicists point to plasma oscillations, others to pressure effects in the ionosphere. No certainty yet. Perhaps Earth still hides languages we have not learned, languages that can be heard only by a quiet heart, not an instrument. When humans become part of the music. We often think we observe the Earth from outside, but we are a beat within its pulse. When we inhale, trees exhale. When we walk the ground, carbon atoms in our bodies once dwelled in rock, water, wind. We do not live on Earth, we are Earth. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in Love Letter to the Earth, "We are the Earth, and we are always carrying her within us." We do not merely live upon this planet, we carry it in our blood, our hearts, every cell. Listen more deeply, and you will sense that your heartbeat and the planet's sounds are not separate. Every thunderclap, every rain, every breeze are the many ways Earth says, "I am here, I am alive." When night settles, wind strokes the leaves, and you lie quietly, hearing the ground beneath you, remember you are cradled in a living being, one that has erupted, trembled, burned, and wept,
and still it sings the song of continuity. No one knows what waits ahead, how long this planet will keep breathing, whether humankind will learn to move with its rhythm. But right now, in this moment, Earth is still singing. And if you are silent, very silent, you may hear its lullaby. The ocean on the shore, rain on the roof, distant thunder, wind through woods, each a voice of life. Carl Sagan once wrote, "Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves." And perhaps, in that solitude, we learn to love Earth, because it is the only home where the cosmos becomes gentle. Now, close your eyes. Feel your breath mingle with the planet's breath. You are not merely hearing about Earth, you are within it, with it, of it. The Earth breathes, and so do you. In the same rhythm, the same music, the same dream. And as you sleep, the planet will lull you with the beat of its own heart. Sleep well, child of Earth. Let tonight be the hour the planet whispers into your dreams of fire, ice, water, and the wonders science has yet to explain. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that tonight you're standing on a beach, where tiny sea turtles are slowly crawling toward the ocean. They have never seen the sea. They have never learned how to swim. And yet, when moonlight glints on the waves, one by one, without deviation, they head toward that light, to home. The wondrous orientation of life. Scientists have tracked migrations that defy belief. Hawks flying across the Sahara Desert without losing their way. Salmon swimming upstream back to the exact place where they were born. Monarch butterflies flying more than 4,000 kilometers from Canada to Mexico just to overwinter, and then their descendants find that very same path home. This raises a question that still puzzles modern biology. How do those creatures know the way, though they've never traveled it before? People call this phenomenon magnetoreception, the ability to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Some species have cells containing magnetite crystals that act like biological compasses. Others can sense polarized light or induced electrical currents in the ocean. But no one fully understands how that mechanism truly operates. In the article The Nature of Navigation, biologist Kenneth Lohman wrote, "The magnetic sense is perhaps the least understood of all animal senses. We know it exists, but not how it feels. We know it exists, but we don't know what that sensation is like. For humans, the magnetic field may be just a concept, but for birds, fish, or turtles, it is the background music of the world, a silent melody that is always playing, guiding every creature back to where it began." Migration, memory written into blood. What's strange is that even when parents die before their offspring hatch, these species still know the way home. The monarch's migration requires 4 generations to complete a single cycle. The final generation, never having seen the north, still knows to return to the very forest where its ancestors once overwintered. As if memory does not reside in recollection, but in DNA. Perhaps life stores information by repeating primordial acts, like the heartbeat, leaves turning toward the sun, or humans finding their way back to what they love. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "You didn't come into this world, you came out of it like a wave from the ocean. We do not step into this world, we are born from it, like waves born of the sea." Maybe that's why every living thing carries within itself a pull toward its source. Small as they are, with no knowledge of why, all are guided by a sacred instinct, a call from the place of beginning. When instinct surpasses reason, we often treat instinct as something primitive, below reason. But perhaps instinct is nature's deepest wisdom.
It requires no deliberation, no logic, cannot be deceived. It simply knows. A salmon does not weigh whether to return to its old stream. It knows it must, as if the entire universe were whispering in its blood. This is the way. And when it dies after spawning, its body becomes nourishment for the new generation. A closed life cycle, so perfect it needs no justification. David Attenborough once said in The Life of Birds, "There are some mysteries of the animal world that seem to transcend explanation. They are not miracles, but they are close." These things are not miracles, but they are very close. Sensing beyond human limits. Many animals have senses humans can scarcely imagine. Sharks detect electric fields as faint as a billionth of a volt. Bats see with returning sound waves. Bees hear color through the ultraviolet spectrum of light. And migratory birds feel their routes through quantum light in the retina, where entangled electrons may shift with the magnetic field. Some physicists call this quantum biology, the idea that life is governed not only by biology, but also attuned by quantum mechanics. Subatomic vibrations might determine a bird's flight path, or how petals reflect light for a bee's eyes. If so, then living behavior is the resonance of biology with the cosmos. A bee seeks flowers not only for nectar, but because it is following a quantum melody humming through space. When life finds its own rhythm. Watching a migrating flock, you notice there is no commander, no leader. Yet each bird knows when to tilt a wing, shift position, reduce drag, or accelerate. As if the flock were a single body, and each individual merely a cell within it. Researchers call this swarm intelligence. No one controls it, yet the system runs flawlessly through constant feedback among individuals. This makes us wonder, might intelligence reside not in the individual, but in connection? At the deepest level, does life always function as a network, like neurons in the brain or stars in a galaxy? Biologist Frank Hepner once said, "A flock of birds is not just a collection of individuals, but an emergent organism bound by information. A flock is not merely a sum, it is a being arising from information." And if we extend that idea, perhaps the earth itself is a living being connected by the flow of life, from avian instinct to human feeling. From those flocks, we look back at ourselves. Humans also migrate, also find the way home, also follow unseen forces, memory, love, belief. Perhaps the instincts of all creatures are the ancient draft of human emotion. They are the first language life used to speak to itself. And within each of us, that language remains. When we feel homesick, when we love someone, when we gaze at the night sky and fall quiet. That is the moment we return to our most natural, original part, the part that needs no words, no explanations, only feeling. If migrations are the language of instinct, then emotion is the language of the soul. Across millions of years, the human brain learned not only to survive, it learned to feel. It knows how to tremble at a smile, to weep at a melody, to shiver when it hears 3 words, "I love you." Yet strangely, even though science can scan the entire human brain, we still don't understand why love quickens the heart, or why a piece of music brings someone to tears. Language, when sound becomes meaning. No one knows exactly when language appeared. Our distant ancestors, hundreds of thousands of years ago, could only cry out, howl, and gesture. Then one day, sound became a symbol. A string of breath and vocal vibrations suddenly meant something. And in that moment, humanity was born. Linguist Noam Chomsky once said, "Language is a mirror of mind in a deep and significant sense." Language mirrors the mind, not just to transmit information, but to understand ourselves. Neuroscientists have found that when we speak, dozens of brain regions light up at once. Broca's area shaping syntax, Wernicke's area grasping meaning, emotional regions adding tone. This shows language is not mere logic, it is the music of consciousness. A child learns to speak not because it is taught, but because it longs to connect. In the very first cry of mother, there lies millions of years of evolution, from biological signals to the need to be loved. Laughter, when science touches joy. Laughter is the most primordial sound of happiness. Before humans could speak, we laughed. Infants only weeks old laugh when lightly tickled, and that laugh is not learned, it is innate. But why do we laugh? Science has no definitive answer. Some evolutionary thinkers say laughter signals safety, a way of saying, I'm not a threat. Others propose it relieves neural tension, triggering endorphins, the happiness hormones.
Yet those reasons cannot fully capture the wonder. Why can a single sentence, a glance, a tiny absurdity make us laugh until we cry? Darwin wrote in The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, laughter seems to be the expression of mere joy or happiness. Perhaps it is more. It is the spirit spilling beyond the body. And strangely, laughter needs no translation. From Africa to Europe, from children to the elderly, laughter keeps the same rhythm, the same heartbeat. It proves that despite our differences, humans share a common emotional frequency. Music, humanity's most beautiful mystery. If anything renders science silent, it is music. A chain of physical sound waves, simple oscillations in air, can stir the heart, summon memory, and make us weep. Physicist Albert Einstein once said, "I see my life in terms of music." He did not merely love the violin, he believed the universe moves by rhythm. Biologically, music activates emotion, amygdala, memory, hippocampus, and imagination, prefrontal cortex. But the hardest question remains, why do sounds without semantic meaning touch the deepest parts of the soul? A sad song can slow our heartbeat. A joyful tune can release dopamine. Yet what we feel is not just chemistry, it is harmony. Music makes us feel as if we are returning home, though we cannot say where that home is. Perhaps music is humanity's memory from before language. The primal drumbeat, our ancestors' voices around the fire, the rain, a mother's heartbeat. The first songs we heard before we were born. Maybe that's why, hearing music, we remember something nameless, ancient, gentle, and enduring. Love, nature's imperfect experiment. When it comes to what science cannot fully explain, love often tops the list. Biologists can talk about oxytocin, dopamine, attachment mechanisms. Neuroscientists can locate brain regions that glow when we love. But no one can define precisely what love is. Love is a biological paradox. It makes us vulnerable, yet helps us survive. It blinds us, yet lets us see the meaning of life. Poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of all our tasks." Indeed, love is the journey of learning to see ourselves in another. And love is not only human. Hundreds of studies show animals also love. Elephants mourn at a companion's body. Albatrosses bond for life. Dolphins comfort the injured. They cannot speak, but they know loss. They know longing. In a famed study, Frans de Waal, author of The Age of Empathy, wrote, "Empathy may not be a uniquely human trait. It may be as old as mammals. Compassion may not be our exclusive gift. It may be as ancient as life itself." When feeling is the bridge between human and cosmos. Emotion, love, laughter, music is not merely a psychological event. It is the language of connection. When we love, we do not love only a person. We touch life. When we cry, we are not just sad. We prove we still feel. And when we laugh, the world, if only for a moment, grows lighter. As philosopher Alan Watts said, "We do not come into this world, we come out of it as leaves from a tree. We do not enter this world, we grow from it." Therefore, every human emotion is nature speaking through us.
When we watch a school of migrating fish or hear birds call to one another, remember, there is no vast distance between them and us. We too are finding our way home, but our path lies within the soul. Among all creatures, only humans weak for emotion. Not because wind stings the eyes, nor dust or light, but because something unseen touches the depths of the heart. We cry for joy, cry for loss, cry when we reunite after years apart, and sometimes cry without knowing why. Science still cannot explain it all. Emotional tears contain hormones and proteins wholly different from reflex tears. They hold traces of stress, oxytocin, prolactin, and endorphins. Yet no one knows why the body chooses to release feeling with water, with clear drops falling from the eyes. Biologist Ad Vingerhoots, author of Why Only Humans Weep, writes, "Crying signals vulnerability, and it invites empathy. Tears signal weakness and invite compassion. Tears, a language without words. When someone cries, we need not understand their language. We still feel their pain. There is something primal and profound in the way eyes mirror emotion. A single tear can say more than 1,000 words. Experiments show that when people see someone crying, the brain automatically activates regions tied to empathy, the anterior insula and the anterior cingulate cortex. In other words, we feel another's pain within our own bodies. Frans de Waal, in The Age of Empathy, wrote, "Empathy is the glue that holds societies together. Compassion is the glue that binds society, not reason, but feeling. Perhaps that's why tears become a bridge between two souls. A whisper, 'I understand you. I have hurt like that too.' Compassion, humanity's ancient legacy. We often think compassion is noble and uniquely human, but modern research shows its roots run deep in evolution. Chimpanzees embrace one another when afraid. Elephants grieve by their dead. Rats will forego food to help a trapped companion. Such acts bring no direct survival advantage, and that is precisely what makes them wondrous. The instinct to help surpasses the instinct to survive." Psychologist Paul Gilbert writes in The Compassionate Mind, writes, "Compassion is not a weakness, it is a form of courage. Compassion does not make us weak, it is a kind of bravery. In the natural world, where competition is law, the acts of sharing, helping, consoling are the most beautiful paradox. They prove that life is not merely a brutal chain of selection, but also a hidden current of love. When humans see themselves in all creatures. If you have ever seen a dog lying beside its deceased owner, or an elephant return to the place where its companion died, you understand that feeling is not only ours." Perhaps compassion is not something evolution created merely for survival, but a primordial instinct for connection. When we love, when we share, when we cry with someone, we are restoring life's circuit, the one that began in ancient seas. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Humans are how the universe knows itself. Perhaps that is why, in every tear and every smile, the cosmos is awakening to its own kindness. When science pauses and the heart continues, there are questions that science can measure, and there are things only the heart can feel. Why does a sad song move us? Why can an embrace soothe pain? Why do we weep when we witness everyday kindness? These phenomena don't live in a laboratory, but in human nature, beyond logic's reach. As the great physicist Albert Einstein confessed, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science. The most beautiful experience is the mysterious. And perhaps, within the world of feeling, the greatest mystery is kindness. Kindness needs no condition, no reason, only a quiet moment where heart touches heart. That is where science ends and life begins to sing. The fragile beauty of being human. When we laugh, we remember that joy can spread. When we cry, we prove we still have a heart. When we love, we return to the purest purpose of survival, connection. Perhaps the true aim of evolution is not strength, but the ability to empathize. Love, tears, music, laughter, these are humanity's deepest instincts, not weaknesses, but the only strength that lets us endure. Anthropologist Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." Perhaps it is compassion, not intellect, that has kept humanity from self-destruction. And when night falls, imagine you hear your heartbeat join the wind. Remember, your kindness and your tears are part of this planet feeling through you. When you cry, the earth cries too, in rain. When you laugh, the planet smiles in dawnlight. And when you love, the universe, vast as it is, suddenly grows small and warm. In the end, every mystery returns to one truth. We feel, therefore we live. And life, however fragile, remains the greatest wonder of all. Why does firing neurons create the feeling of being alive? A question that lulls the mind to sleep with its very not knowing. Perhaps we do not need an answer. For curiosity, kindness, and the ability to shed tears are already miracles. Good night, kind soul. Let the mysteries of feeling, of laughter, of tears carry you into peaceful sleep, where the universe whispers, "You are alive, and that is enough." Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. On a dark night, tens of thousands of years ago, around a fire in a cold forest, the first humans looked up at a sky full of stars. There were no books, no maps, no writing. Only firelight, voices, and imagination.
And then, one of them began to tell a story. That person spoke of the moon drifting after a silver wolf, of the sun riding a chariot of fire, of a thunder god battling across the clouds. Others listened, their eyes brightening. From that moment on, humanity began to tell stories. Those stories were the beginnings of language, of culture, of everything that makes us different from other creatures. Not tools, not fire, but shared imagination. The anthropologist Joseph Campbell once wrote in The Power of Myth, "Myths are public dreams. Dreams are private myths. Myth is the shared dream of humankind, and a dream is the private myth of each person." That sentence explains why people everywhere, in every era, tell the same story. When cultures dream the same dream, strangely, from Greece to Egypt, from India to South America, cultures that never met share similar mythic motifs. A great flood, a hero overcoming trials, a death and return to life, a God who creates light. How could that be? Historians debate. Did such stories spread through ancient trade, or do they arise naturally from the human mind, like inborn patterns of consciousness? Carl Jung called these archetypes, primordial patterns residing in the collective unconscious. He wrote in Man and His Symbols, "There are as many archetypes as there are typical situations in life. As many forms of experience as life contains, so many molds exist within the soul." In other words, when people in two different places dream of a creator God, it's not a coincidence. It is a reflection of the same deep instinct, an echo from the shared mind. Why do we tell stories? Humans tell stories not only to entertain, but to understand the world and ourselves. A story is how we bring order to chaos. It is when we say, "This is why lightning strikes, why the sea is restless, why humans love and fear." As the writer Joan Didion once said, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live. We tell stories in order to go on living." Modern neuroscience confirms this. The human brain prefers to store memory as story, not as data. We remember what carries emotion, characters, conflict, and resolution, because the brain evolved to seek meaning. That is why storytelling is the native language of cognition. From a mother's lullaby, to epic poetry, to the novel, to cinema,
These are simply different forms of the most primordial act, connecting through meaning. The origin of language, a miracle no one fully understands. Language is one of humanity's greatest mysteries. No one knows exactly when it was born or from where. Linguists propose that speech appeared 50 to 100,000 years ago, but there is no archaeological proof that pinpoints that moment. One hypothesis says language began with cries of feeling, like calls, laughter, sighs, then gradually became meaningful symbols. Another suggests it arose from rhythm and music, that humans sang before they spoke. Linguist Steven Pinker wrote in The Language Instinct, "Language is a window into human nature. Language is a window that opens onto the human condition. And indeed, through language, we see how people organize the world. Some tongues have 20 words for snow. Some have no word for I. There are cultures that rely almost entirely on verbs, as if everything is always in motion. All of this shows reality is not separate from language. We don't only use words to describe the world, we make the world with words. When stories build civilization. From the moment humans could tell stories, civilization began to take shape. Myths became religions, legends became history, oral tales became laws, ethics, and the idea of us. As historian Yuval Noah Harari writes in *Sapiens*, large numbers of strangers can cooperate successfully by believing in common myths. Large groups of strangers can cooperate only when they believe in shared stories. Without story, no society. Without collective belief, no laws, no nations, no money. Because all these exist only because people believe in them together. Money, power, gods, justice are all collective imaginations. Yet they built the pyramids, Rome, and the internet. Story fire, the candle of consciousness. When night falls and the world grows quiet, humans still tell stories. Not only in words, but through art, music, and the eyes. A cave painting at Lascaux may have endured for 17,000 years, and it still speaks the same language. I was here, I saw, I lived. The story is how consciousness leaves its trace upon time, because no one wishes to vanish completely. We tell to be remembered. We write to be heard again. We dream to keep living inside the stories not yet finished. Writer Ursula K. Le Guin once said, "There have been great societies that did not use the wheel, but there have been no societies that did not tell stories. There may have been societies without the wheel, but none without stories." That statement is both scientific truth and a meditative lullaby, that storytelling is the very essence of human existence. When you look at a city at night from above, millions of tiny lights shimmering, you're witnessing the wonder of cooperation. Each light is a person, a home, a thought, and together they merge into a vast body called civilization. And yet one question remains unanswered. Why do humans help others, even strangers, when it brings no direct survival benefit? Why do we help strangers? In nature, most species care only for themselves or their own group. But humans are different. We share food, donate blood, tend the sick, and help people we have never met. It is a biological paradox. The selfish gives rise to the altruistic. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins called this the selfish gene. He wrote, "Let us try to teach generosity and altruism because we are born selfish. We are born selfish, and therefore we must learn generosity. And it is precisely this learning to care for others, that allowed humans to step beyond nature's brutal rules. The power of cooperation. When people began living together, sharing fire, hunting, and telling stories, something new appeared. Trust. Not trust in gods, but trust in one another. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt writes in The Righteous Mind, "Human beings are 90% chimp and 10% bee. We are independent like chimps and hive-minded like bees. And that 10% bee helps us cooperate and sacrifice for something larger than ourselves.
That fragile trust created every civilization. Without trust, no commerce. Without cooperation, no cities. Without altruism, no culture. Works like the pyramids, the Colosseum, the Great Wall are not only stone and brick, but millions of hands reaching toward a single idea. One might say, civilization began not with tools, but with cooperation. The cycle of creation and collapse. And yet, everything built will one day change. Every civilization, however great, follows a cycle: birth, growth, zenith, and decline. History records the echoes. Sumer lost under sand, Egypt fading into memory, Rome fallen, and with each passing, the earth still turns. Why do flourishing societies collapse? Science offers many hypotheses: climate shifts, wars, plagues, inequality, the exhaustion of resources. But there is something deeper: disconnection. When people no longer trust one another, when faith in the shared story fractures, civilization, no matter how strong, begins to decay from within. As historian Arnold Toynbee wrote in A Study of History, civilizations die from suicide, not by murder. Civilizations are not killed, they unravel from the inside. When the past mirrors the future. Each time a civilization collapses, another rises from the ashes. From Athens' twilight came Rome. From Rome's fall, modern Europe. As if decline is a natural part of evolution. Like death in biology, collapse is not an end, it is the rebirth of meaning. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "The end of the world is nothing to be afraid of. It's only the end of an illusion." The end is not fearsome. It is simply the dissolving of one illusion. So it is with civilization. When an old form falls, a new story is told, and humanity never stops telling. Story, the soul of continuity. However many empires crumble, words remain. However many libraries burn, memory finds a way through speech. From Sumer to the internet, people have never ceased to tell stories. Archaeologists find shards etched with script, epics like Gilgamesh, the Iliad, the Ramayana, and discover they speak not only of gods, but of human fear, faith, and longing. That is what makes the soul of civilization. Not castles, not technology, but the shared notion that we are writing a story together. Philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote in The Human Condition, "Storytelling reveals meaning without committing the error of defining it. Story shows us meaning without stripping life of its mystery." And perhaps that is what every civilization tries to do, to find meaning without losing wonder. When civilization becomes a mirror for the soul, look at the world map and you'll see borders, but look with the mind and you'll see only one human species. Different languages, religions, skin tones, and yet all telling the same story, a journey to find meaning. Science, philosophy, religion, art are different dialects of the same timeless question: who am I and why am I here? Perhaps civilization is not what we build, but the mirror in which the soul learns to see itself. And however many times it breaks, the story is told again, because humans, by our deepest instinct, cannot stop believing in one another. From prehistoric caves to cities of light, from bison etched on rock faces to glowing screens, across tens of thousands of years, humans have kept doing one thing: telling stories to understand the world. And behind every story, great or small, there lies a question that never grows old. Why? Curiosity, the flame that never goes out. Science begins with curiosity. Philosophy begins with curiosity. Myth, religion, and art are different answers to the same flame inside the human heart. Physicist Richard Feynman once said, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. I would rather hold unanswerable questions than unquestionable answers." It is this curiosity that makes us different from every other creature. We do not merely live,
we want to know why we live. We do not just look at the sky, we want to know why it is blue. We do not only love, we want to know why love makes the heart ache. Science calls it the cognitive itch. The human mind cannot bear gaps in understanding, so we fill them with hypotheses, beliefs, or poetry. From that gap, civilization was born. Storytelling, humanity's most sacred act. If anything unites all human history, it is the power of storytelling. Without story, no memory. Without memory, no identity. Storytelling is the most sacred ritual humans have created, a bridge between reality and imagination, between the known and the unknown. Mythologist Joseph Campbell says in The Hero with a Thousand Faces, the hero's journey always begins with the call to adventure. Every heroic journey begins with a call. And perhaps humanity itself is that hero. We hear the call from the darkness of the cosmos, leave the cave, look up at the sky, and step into the grand adventure of awareness. Each civilization retells that same journey, changing only names, languages, and symbols. From Gilgamesh seeking immortality, to Prometheus bringing fire to humankind, to astronauts seeing the Earth from orbit and saying, "We came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth." Harrison Schmitt, Apollo 17. We do not only explore the world, we discover ourselves within it. When storytelling becomes the universe's memory.
If you think about it, every story is a kind of memory. A poem, a structure, a piece of music, all are ways the universe remembers itself through human beings. Carl Sagan once said in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." We are how the cosmos becomes aware of itself. When humans write, paint, sing, or weep, the universe, through us, is reflecting on itself. The thoughts, feelings, and stories we create are the echo of matter that has learned to think. In lamplight, in the heartbeat of a city, in every word you are reading, the universe is dreaming of itself in the language of humankind. Altruism and retelling, two faces of the same miracle. When you help a stranger, when you forgive, when you share, you are retelling a story humanity has voiced for millennia, that goodness is real and life has meaning. Each act of kindness is a chapter in humanity's collective epic. No one needs to remember your name, because the story you plant in the world will be carried on by others, and others still, until there is no boundary between us and them. As the writer George Eliot once asked, "What do we live for if not to make life less difficult for each other?" We live to make life less difficult for one another, and that is the true foundation of civilization. Not steel, not technology, but empathy. When civilization becomes a poem of curiosity. A poet once said, "Humans do not only want truth, they want truth beautifully told." Perhaps that is why we created art. Civilization is not only buildings, but cave paintings. Not only technique, but ideas of beauty, of kindness, of the question, who am I? Science tells us how. Art asks us why. And between the two, we find ourselves. As Alan Watts said, you are the universe experiencing itself. You are the universe experiencing itself. And each civilization is only a moment in that endless dream. When humans return to being storytellers, civilization may fall, but language remains. Cities may sink beneath sand, but stories ride the wind. Because when all else is gone, what remains is the idea that we existed and we loved. Perhaps that is what makes us human, not technology, not intellect, but the ability to find meaning inside meaninglessness. When we tell, we connect. When we listen, we love. When we dream, we keep writing the next chapter. And as Sleepy Cosmos keeps whispering, the questions themselves are soothing.
Mystery is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Let this night drift by in the calm of story. You are part of it, a small chapter in humanity's long poem. Good night, and if you dream, remember that perhaps it is civilization experiencing through you. Imagine you're drifting slowly through space. As Earth recedes, you slip past the blue veil of atmosphere, beyond the moon, into the hush of the solar system, where there is no sound, no wind, only light and shadow interlacing like the universe's breath.
Though we've studied it for centuries, the solar system remains a maze of the inexplicable. The planets we think we know, Saturn, Venus, Uranus, Neptune, each hides its own paradox, as if the sun were keeping secrets meant only for those patient enough to listen. Saturn, the ageless, perfect rings. Saturn, the most beautiful world ever seen through a lens. Its rings, delicate, fine, translucent, circle the giant of gas like an icy crown. And yet the strange thing is, they are far too young. Data from the Cassini spacecraft suggest Saturn's rings are only about 100 million years old, while the planet itself is roughly 40 times older. If the history of the solar system were a single day, Saturn's glowing rings would have appeared only minutes before midnight. This puzzles astronomers. Are the rings the remnants of a moon torn apart by tidal forces? Or the ruins of a wandering body that melted as it came too close? Carl Sagan once wrote, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." Perhaps that incredible thing sleeps among the breath-thin shards of ice circling Saturn. Venus, Earth's twin that spins backward. While distant Saturn turns in silence, Venus, Earth's sister, is a world turned upside down. It spins in the opposite direction to most other planets. Stand on Venus and you'd watch the sun rise in the west and set in the east. No one knows why. One hypothesis says a massive ancient impact flipped its axis. Another suggests tidal friction from its dense atmosphere slowed it nearly to a halt, then reversed it. And there's more. Venus is hotter than Mercury despite being farther from the sun. Its surface is hot enough to melt lead, and its skies rain sulfuric acid. That world is a reminder of life's fragility. With only the slightest shift in atmospheric balance, paradise can become inferno. Astronomer Sarah Seeger once wrote, "Venus is Earth's twin, but it shows us what can happen when greenhouse effects go wild." Perhaps gazing at Venus is like looking at one possible future of our own. Uranus, the impossible tilt. If Venus spins backward, Uranus all but lies on its side. Its axis is tilted by 98 degrees, meaning it doesn't just rotate, it rolls around the sun like a sleeping sphere. What could have tilted it so? Maybe a colossal impact early in solar system history. Or perhaps it was born that way, a fingerprint from an unsettled epoch of space and time. On Uranus, a single season lasts 21 years. Half the planet basks in sunlight, while the other half sinks into absolute night. And out there, winds can reach 900 kilometers per hour, silent storms with no sound and no rest. Scientists call it the sideways world. Maybe it's the perfect metaphor for the cosmos. Not everything must stand upright to endure. Even misalignment can have its own harmony. Neptune, a symphony of wind and dark. Farther still, on the solar system's edge, where sunlight fades to moon pale, Neptune turns within a deep, quiet blue. It is the windiest planet of all. Its gales blow faster than sound, over 2,000 kilometers per hour. No one knows what power can sustain such storms, for Neptune receives less than 1/900th of Earth's solar light. It ought to be cold and still, but in truth, it is a perpetual tempest. Perhaps the planet radiates energy from within, or some uncharted mechanism links core, atmosphere, and magnetic field. Scientists call it the Neptune paradox. Physicist Brian Cox once said, Every atom in our bodies was once part of a star that exploded. We are the way for the universe to know itself. Perhaps, watching those winds, we see not only a far-off world, we see the universe observing itself in a storm of gas and light. When the solar system becomes a score of paradoxes, each planet is a question, each rotation a whisper, and the solar system, seemingly familiar, is a symphony of mysteries. From Uranus's tilt to Saturn's youthful rings to Venus's retrograde spin, the rules seem flexed, almost on purpose. As if the cosmos were murmuring, "Don't try to master me with logic, feel me with wonder." Walt Whitman wrote in Leaves of Grass, "I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars. A blade of grass is as grand as the voyage of the stars." And perhaps, in those planets, we learn not only physics, we learn the path of existence itself. Imagine gliding along Saturn's rim, where sunlight thins, and the solar wind is only a faint breath. There, between darkness and stillness, the solar system dissolves toward nothingness. But at that frontier, the oldest secrets of cosmic birth lie sleeping. The Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, where beginning and ending meet. Beyond Neptune stretches the Kuiper Belt, a realm of thousands of icy worlds, the leftovers of creation. Too scattered ever to form a planet, they drift silently, like the universe's memories. Among them is Pluto, once a planet, now a symbol of humility in knowledge. A small, frozen world with a pink-tinged sky and a great heart of ice engraved across its face. When New Horizons flew by, it sent back images that scientist Alan Stern described. It feels alive, like the world is trying to tell us something. Farther still, beyond the Kuiper Belt, lies the Oort cloud, a vast sphere that may reach 100,000 astronomical units. It is the cradle of comets, icy messengers from the universe's dawn. Each time a comet falls sunward, it trails a luminous script millions of kilometers long, a signature of time. When it leaves, no one knows when it will return. 1,000 years? 10,000? Or never? Carl Sagan wrote, "Comets are the frozen time capsules of the early solar system. When a meteor streaks across the night, we see not only light, but time moving in silence." Europa, a moon that breathes in the dark. Closer in, near Jupiter, we find Europa, one of the most beautiful and enigmatic moons. Its surface is pale and glass smooth, and beneath ice tens of kilometers thick may lie an ocean hundreds of kilometers deep. A place where life could be possible. Probes have recorded plumes venting from fractures on the surface. Water jets into space and falls back, an eternal meteor of its own. Below, there may be geothermal heat, like Earth's seafloor vents, where life here may once have begun. If life can exist on Europa, then life may be rule, not accident. Kevin Hand, NASA JPL, once said, "If we find life in Europa, it means life might be the rule, not the exception." In Europa's frozen hush may rest the answer we've sought for millennia. Are we alone? Enceladus, Saturn's shining gem. If Europa is the moon of hope, Enceladus, tiny moon of Saturn, is nature's miracle. Only 500 kilometers across, smaller than the U.S. state of Arizona, yet it holds a restless subsurface sea. As Cassini flew over its south polar fissures, it detected water vapor, ice, salts, and organic molecules. Plumes flung into space like a living world's breath. Those plumes even supply Saturn's E-ring. Beneath the ice, heat from a rocky core may keep water liquid. And, perhaps, deep within, microscopic life drifts in darkness, needing no sunlight, only chemistry, just as Earth's deep oceans do. Astronomer Carolyn Porco said,
Enceladus is a tiny, gleaming world, but it may be the best place to look for life beyond Earth. Enceladus, exhaling white into the black, is a soul breathing in the cold. The solar system as a treasury of hidden life. From Europa to Enceladus, from Pluto to the Oort cloud, each world whispers, life may not belong to Earth alone. Perhaps life needs no sunlight, no air, no land. It only needs a chance, a place where water meets energy, where chemistry meets time. Then the cosmos is no desert, but a hidden garden, where seeds of life drift through the dark, waiting to be seen. Carl Sagan said, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." Each icy moon may be that incredible thing, the solar system's far frontier. Farther than all we have touched, sunlight fades to weakness. There is no day, no night, only endless dark and distant starlight. The Voyagers, launched in 1977, still drift there, crossing beyond the sun's domain, carrying golden records of Earth sounds, rain, children's laughter, Bach, and greetings in 55 languages. On them is inscribed, "To the makers of music, all worlds, all times." Perhaps one day someone very far away will find them. Or perhaps no one ever will. But the meaning isn't in the destination. It's in the sending of a small piece of our soul. From the solar system's dim edge, where ghostly comets turn back toward light, let your mind drift farther, beyond the planets, beyond the place where the sun is only one star among billions. There, in the void, only physical laws whisper the world into being. And a question rises softly. Do those laws truly exist? Or are they simply the language we use to describe the universe's dream? The immutable constants, the cosmic settings of reality. Imagine the universe's control panel. Dials everywhere. Speed of light, electron charge, strength of gravity, Planck's constant, proton mass, all set with near-perfect precision. Change one value by even 0.001% and this universe might never have formed. No stars, no planets, no us. Stephen Hawking once said, "If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present size." This is what scientists call fine-tuning, as if the universe were designed to allow life, but who or what set the dials? Some say it's chance. Others see evidence for a multiverse, a countless sea of universes, each with its own constants, and we live in one of the few where life is possible. Carl Sagan murmured, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff." Perhaps the tuning is not only out there, but within us, as life wonders about its own origin. Is reality continuous or granular? We're used to a seamless world, time flowing, space expanding, everything smooth. But quantum physicists ask, might space and time be made of the tiniest grains, Planck units? Below the atom, Newton, Einstein, and Maxwell all falter. There we find a realm where matter is not matter and light is not wave, but probabilities and oscillations and maybes. A particle can be in 2 places at once, and only when observed does it choose a position, as if the universe waits for us to look before becoming real. Einstein resisted. I like to think the mood is there even if I am not looking at it. But modern experiments suggest that at the quantum level, existence appears to depend on observation. So we ask, is reality not an objective stage, but a dialogue between observer and universe? If so, then consciousness, your own awareness hearing this, is part of the equation that brings reality forth. The multiverse and another you. Imagine that every time a decision occurs, left or right, yes or no, the universe splits, creating two branches of reality. This is the many worlds interpretation proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957. By that view, every possibility is real. In one universe, humanity has already walked on Mars. In another, you are hearing a slightly different version of this story, in a softer voice, at a slower cadence, in another tongue. All exist, parallel, silent, never touching. Brian Greene writes in The Hidden Reality, "If the multiverse is real, then somewhere there's another you, making different choices but under the same stars." That thought is dizzying and oddly comforting. We cannot live every life, but the universe, perhaps, lives them all. Physics and philosophy, when science becomes meditation. The deeper we travel into physics, the more the border with philosophy fades. When scientists ask, why is there something rather than nothing, they ask what sages have asked for millennia. Perhaps physics and meditation are two paths to the same place. A quiet ground where observer and observed are one. Werner Heisenberg said, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." We do not see nature as it is, but as it is revealed by the questions we ask. Reality is not a stone wall, but a mirror of awareness. Every question, why, where, how long, is a small ripple shaping the universe's face. Reality as a music of dreams. Maybe this universe is not a machine, but a poem sung in the language of physics. Maybe laws, constants, and quanta are only rhythms of a larger song, the song of being. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, said what millions still quote, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." If that is true, the universe is not only existing, it is dreaming. And we are that dream. Close your eyes. Hear the far solar wind passing the icy worlds, and imagine that somewhere, sometime, the universe is retelling this very story to someone else in another place beneath the same stars. The universe is vast, and so are you, Sleepy Cosmos whispers. Don't worry about finding all the answers tonight. Just let the mystery hold you, and sleep. Perhaps every great journey, whether of science or of the spirit, ends not with an answer, but with the gentle acceptance that we do not yet know. As the storyteller closes 100 Things Science Still Can't Explain, the voice is not that of a scholar arriving at truth, but of a human being smiling into the night. It softens, warm, tender, filled with love, inviting the listener to stop searching, to release the tension of needing to understand, and simply drift among the questions as among the stars. Carl Sagan once wrote in The Demon-Haunted World, "Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality." Science and spirit are not opposites, they nourish one another. The more we understand the universe, the smaller we feel, and in that smallness we discover peace. Not knowing ceases to frighten us, it becomes a form of gratitude. For if every question were answered, the world would fall silent, and wonder, the force that opens our eyes to the sky, would vanish. In the closing moments, the narrator makes no promises of resolution, only offers a profound calm. The questions themselves are soothing. Mystery is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is a simple yet profound truth that the question itself is a lullaby. Every mystery is not a void to be filled, but a space to breathe, a resting place for the mind. Those who love discovery sometimes forget. Science is not the pursuit of certainty, but the art of living gracefully with uncertainty. As Richard Feynman once said, I can live with doubt and uncertainty and not knowing. I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have answers which might be wrong. When we learn to live with doubt, we no longer fear the dark. We begin to see the light that dwells within it. In Eastern meditation, there is a notion called the cloud of unknowing. It is not ignorance, but the natural state of an awakened mind, vast, patient, like the night sky that does not rush to scatter its clouds. And the voice of sleepy cosmos, soft as mist, leads the listener precisely there, to the place where not understanding becomes serenity. Imagine yourself lying still, eyes closed, as all the grand questions, why do we exist? Why is the universe ordered? What is consciousness? No longer demand answers. They drift like stars, each a small point of light in the deep dark, and you, the observer, simply smile as they pass. In that moment, science touches meditation. There is no border between reason and emotion, between knowing and letting go. Only a quiet beauty remains, a sense that all is well, that even in our unknowing, the universe is breathing in rhythm. Albert Einstein wrote in Living Philosophies, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science." When the narrator says, mystery is not something to fear, but something to embrace, they are saying the same. Mystery is a gift, not an enemy to erase. We do not stand outside the universe to explain it. We are part of the very equation without a solution. And then, as the voice fades, it no longer belongs to the speaker, but to the cosmos itself, whispering the final line, a phrase that has become the soul of sleepy cosmos. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with wonder. That line is more than a goodnight wish. It is an act of trust. When we close our eyes, we surrender ourselves to the unknown. Sleep, like the universe, is a darkness where everything becomes possible. Just as when we gaze at the night sky, it is not the light that awes us most, but the space between the stars. At its heart, science is a lesson in humility. The more we learn, the greater the vastness of what remains unknown. But instead of fearing that vastness, we can love it, as we love the darkness that patiently nurtures the birth of new stars. Philosopher Alan Watts wrote in The Wisdom of Insecurity, "To be alive is to be uncertain. It is to be open to surprise, to wonder. To live is to accept uncertainty, to stay open to astonishment and grace." That is the spirit the ending of Sleepy Cosmos awakens. That science does not conclude with an answer, but with awe. Mystery is not a wall, it is a door. And each new question is proof that we are still alive, still listening, still dreaming. As the final sound fades, only the background hum of the cosmos remains, soft, distant, eternal. The listener drifts into sleep, carrying 100 unanswered questions, yet utterly at peace. For now, the questions themselves have become the lullaby. And so, in the gentle dark, the universe keeps turning, the human heart keeps beating. And the dream, like discovery, keeps unfolding. Not to know, but to feel. Good night, and may your dreams truly be filled with wonder.